April, did you have a April 30th close date?
Targeting it.
Hey Elizabeth,
Depends on
I've
the
got
sales.
us muted until everyone gets here.
That's
Testing. Testing.
I knew. Hey, sorry.
Oh, good. Oh, I am so happy.
Yeah.
I was having problems with my speakers and my microphone, and all I needed to do was a good little restart.
Okay, good. Yeah. No, we're on the owl tonight. We kept it pretty small because I had just some people online and I didn't feel like it was a big enough crowd to set up the whole setup, so. And a smaller meeting agenda, so.
Save staff time too.
Awesome. But I think we do have quorum now. You are part of our quorum tonight because Mike may or may not be on.
Gotcha.
And I
the
did
camera doesn't work though, so.
confirm with Jennifer.
I will do as required.
Yeah.
All right, you want to call us to order? Well,
Perfect. So we'll call to order at 6:01 and. Oh man, it's gonna mess me up with all these names gone. Okay, Chair Reese.
here.
Let's see. Commissioner Pinzner,
Here.
Commissioner Glasser,
Here.
Vice Chair Mahold,
Here.
and Mayor Pro Tem Sterling,
Here.
and Commissioner Dugging, Commissioner Dye are both absent tonight.
I reviewed the minutes. I did not see any issues. Did anybody have any errors or anything that they need or any updates needed to the minutes?
I didn't see any as well.
Yeah, they were kind of short. I might at one day maybe amend just that work session a little bit more, which I'll bring it forward in a meeting when we
Good.
do.
And you got to do a vote on it?
Yeah, so it'll likely come to vote again. I just didn't feel like I had the time to put in kind of how that conversation went. So it'll probably come with the next set of minutes.
Okay, then
Like,
is there any more discussion before we
or
move to approve?
Anybody have anything to add about the minutes? Okay, having heard none, I would accept the motion.
I'd make a motion to approve the planning commission meeting minutes from January 27th without amendments.
I second that.
Okay. Alrighty. Commissioner Glasser,
Yes.
Commissioner Penzinger,
Yes.
Vice Chair Mahol,
Yes.
Chair Reese,
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tem Sterling, but you weren't here.
Yeah, I wasn't here, but
How does that work?
do you need an extra one? Or did Mike?
Is Mike on?
I don't know. Who,
No.
is Mike on by chance or is this a guest or?
Yes, I don't know if you, no, this is Mike.
Okay, perfect. Can I get,
Yes, I just joined. And yes,
thank you so much. Okay, thank you for that. Perfect. I'm
We are going now.
okay, perfect.
Put
Awesome.
us on the spot.
Okay,
Perfect.
there's no one here in the room except for folks at this meeting. And if there's anybody online, this would be the time for public comment on a non-agenda item. If there's anybody online, make yourself known and introduce yourself and give us your address and you'll have 3 minutes.
It is just planning commission and attorney, Matt sitting online.
Okay, then I'll close the public comment at this time. We can move on to our first action item, 5.1.
Alrighty, so the planning commission is currently scheduled to meet May 27th. This either needs to be rescheduled, relocated, or virtual. The Mountain Forum for Peace will be using the multipurpose room for that entire week, preparing for their upcoming sale. So per Dawn's direction, she just said she would prefer to have no meetings that week. And so my question before all of you tonight is, do you want to push it up a week and reschedule it? Would you like to hold it virtually? The other option is holding it in that small conference room, but then the concern might be if we do have public for any items, there might not be quite a bit of room. So I'm open to suggestions or. But I mean, it's in May. I just wanted to address it now so I could let Dawn and her team know.
No, and I think we
Yeah.
talked last month that something was gonna be coming up for that, along with, November and December. So, I'll tell you what, I know what my preference is, but I'll see if anybody else, has anything that, that I won't throw it out there to prejudice anybody. Any ideas?
I don't think it'll prejudice anybody. Go ahead. What is it?
Okay, well, my preference would be to move it to the 20th, the week before,
Mhm.
and have it in this room, because I feel like
Mhm.
if there was actually somebody who showed up, if that was the month that we had 5 people show up in the audience
All right.
to try and cram us into that little room over there that's meant for executive sessions, I think would be tight. So that would be my suggestion, but I'm open to other suggestions.
When members of the public attend the meetings, are they learning about the meeting date from the website? And are they provided enough notice that that date change wouldn't confuse them more than the room change?
Yeah, so anyone who is subscribed to the packet will get a notification, but also I could put something out on social media and just our website letting them know. Cause I guarantee there will probably be more than one meeting rescheduled with SAB, so we'll probably put a posting out there, however they do it as well, so the public knows.
And the packet will have the correct date.
Correct. Yes, yes.
If they actually go in to see what's gonna be on the agenda, they'll see the date of the meeting on there.
Yeah, we have quite a few subscribers, so they'll get a notification as soon as that packet goes out. But yeah, I think it'd be appropriate to put that messaging out as well.
Let's look at the subscriber list. There might be two in there that want to join this board.
Okay.
Any other discussion on that or heartache with us moving that to a week earlier, the previous Wednesday, May 20th?
I'm
No
fine with
concern
I'm
here.
fine with that.
I'm sorry, what was that, Mike?
No concern. The 20th is great for me.
action item.
Okay, well, it should be. Then I will make a motion that we change the May 27th PC meeting date to May 20th at the normal time
In the normal place.
in the normal place.
Second.
All righty. All right, Commissioner Dye? I'll move forward just in case. Commissioner Pinciner,
Yes.
Commissioner Glasser,
Yes.
Chair Reese,
Yes,
Vice Chair Mahol,
Yes.
and Commissioner Dye, can you still hear me?
Yes. And
Okay,
yes,
perfect. Thank you. Sorry.
That was tricky.
Perfect.
He can still hear you. but-
You didn't want to answer. That's okay.
Sorry.
okay, that closes our action item tonight. And then we will go on to our discussion items, 6.1. And I believe staff has a presentation for us on those.
Yes, so this is for ADU state compliance amendments that have come forth from the state. Just to give kind of a summary for anyone who doesn't know, Colorado has enacted a significant statewide change to the accessory dwelling unit regulations through House Bill 24-1152, which became effective June 30th, 2025. The town of Netherlands' existing ADU regulations are largely consistent with those requirements. However, there are one update that we need to make. Following the receipt of DOLA's compliance report, it was identified amendments to our zoning code are necessary, specifically with the respect to the rear setback requirements for ADUs. The current setback standards applicable to residential zoning districts being mountain residential, low density, medium density, high density, and neighborhood commercial do not align with the minimum setback requirements established under that House bill. As a result, there will need to be some revisions made to our ADU regulations, which I have a chart listed below and we'll go through with you. Colorado state law subjects jurisdictions to permit ADUs and limits local restrictions that are more restrictive than those applied to similar accessory uses. The town's existing regulations are largely consistent with these requirements. However, in the changes that we would need to make, essentially what the state is saying is you need to go to 5 feet for all rear setbacks, or if you have accessory structures identified within your yard and bulk code, then you can go to those rear yard setbacks. Just to kind of identify the purpose of this is one, to be compliant with the state, and two, this keeps us in funding with Prop 123. So it opens us up to more funding, things like that. So as you'll see on my chart here, our current principal rear setbacks for these zones for mountain residential is 40, for low density is 40, for MDR is 25, for high density 15, and for neighborhood commercial 15. Our current accessory use setbacks or dwelling setbacks are the same as our primary structure. So what the change that would need to be made is now we need to go to these accessory use setbacks, which currently in mountain residential is 10 feet, in low density it's 10 feet, and then in medium, high density, and neighborhood commercial it is 5 feet. So we would need to go from the 40 feet to 10, et cetera, et cetera. So based on staff's review of the House bill and DOLA's compliance report, it's been determined that we can achieve compliance by essentially making this amendment to our yard and bulk table. I did present this to the board first, just to kind of get some direction to come back to you all. At that meeting, the board directed staff to evaluate whether the opposed amendments to the rear yard setbacks in our code intended to bring town up to compliance would conflict with the anticipated wildland resiliency requirements that are currently being adopted through state building code amendments. That is something that's going to be going before the board here soon as well. And so the board encouraged staff to explore whether these revisions would affect that, or if there's another approach we could take. One example that was brought up is we had a trustee say, well, let's change the accessory use setbacks. Just kind of talking to DOLA and doing research myself, I think that's kind of conflicting with the whole point of what this is doing, which is trying to make it easier in order to build an ADU. So following the review of the applicable wildlife resiliency provision, staff has determined that the wildfire code amendments do not establish rear yard setbacks for the zoning purposes. As a result, there's no direct conflict between the purpose of an ADU setback amendment and the wildfire resiliency code. However, just some notes that the wildlife resiliency standards will apply broadly to range new development activities, include new buildings, additions, alterations, and repairs. Additionally, there's defensible space requirements that are triggered when permitting additions occur and may apply to both new and existing structures on the property. So implications for proposed ADU setbacks, I kind of outlined them here. While reduced rear yard setbacks for ADUs may increase flexibility for property owners and improve state compliance, the practical effect may be that ADUs are constructed closer to property lines and existing vegetation. In most cases, wildfire resiliency requirements may still impose additional building and site standards, including but not limited to I cannot read tonight. Ignition resistance building materials, Class A roof assemblies, ember resistant vent protection, and defensible space and fuel modification zones. As a result, the potential conflict is not a regulatory in the zoning sense, but rather an implementation consideration. Zoning standards may allow ADU placement, but this wildfire code really kind of prohibits. It's going to add a lot of other things you have to do if you're getting 5 feet closer to your property line. Some additional considerations is fencing and site structures or features. The wildfire code also requires that fences attached to the structure be constructed of non-combustible or ignition resistant materials within 8 feet of a building. If ADUs are permitted closer to rear property lines, this could affect design decisions related to their privacy fencing, retaining walls near the lot lines, and assess paths and egress conditions. Again, it's not a zoning conflict. This really is just going to affect their design. So staff recommendation regarding this, while the board encouraged staff to consider these revisions to the accessory structure setback standards could serve as an alternative approach, staff does not recommend pursuing this option. Modifying accessory structures setbacks townwide to align with ADU setbacks would represent a more significant regulatory change than is necessarily to achieve this state compliance. It would also make our code a lot more restrictive by making this whole alteration. So that's more staff time, more attorney time, and just in general, not something the state would really see as they would see us as being more restrictive is kind of the feedback that I got. Additionally, staff finds the wildfire resiliency code requirements, including the ignition resistant construction materials, those defensible space standards, and limitations on combustible fencing and site features, already introduced substantial additional development constraints for properties in the wildfire hazard areas. These requirements are expected to serve as a practical limiting factor on how close a homeowner could choose to build towards that property line or vegetation areas. As a result, staff anticipates the wildfire mitigation requirements will naturally discourage ADU construction in the most constrained setback conditions without the need for additional zoning restrictions through an accessory structure setback amendment. For these reasons, Staff is recommending that the current accessory structure setback, all these S's are throwing me off, standards, and just proceeding with that targeted ADU setback amendment that was addressed further up. We do have a draft also with this tonight. If you have any questions, let me know. And we'll kind of go from there. So,
Question on, DOLA, are any other communities, I'm sure there's concerns,
Mhm.
especially citizen concerns, but are any other communities, considering not going lockstep with this 5-foot setback rule?
so it's not really an option.
Mhm.
Um,
Right,
From what, I haven't reached out to a ton of communities, but I know at least from cities, it's not really, that's not a concern for them. I mean,
Yeah.
think about like a city lot, you're all pretty close together.
yeah,
It's pretty much, this is compliance. I think a lot of the communities that are similar to us do have some kind of accessory use setback, so they're in the same zones. But I haven't gotten that feedback. I'd be happy to
Okay.
get it.
The
I'd
other
bring
thing is,
it, but-
legally, with the state code superseding our code,
Yeah.
somebody could just say that they're allowed to build at
Mhm.
that level, and then there could be legal action potentially if it wasn't followed.
there's a carrot and a stick here.
Yeah.
I like the 123 carrot, and I don't like the fighting the state stick.
What is that? What's the consequence? You just are not eligible for grant opportunities? Is that what happens if you? Drag your
I
feet
I
over
think
it.
this could probably open us up to legal action, but
Somebody tried
I'm
to
not
build
sure.
one and.
It looks like Jennifer's hands up
Oh,
too.
yeah, she's the better one to
I
answer.
was gonna say, this
Oh.
is being, by the way.
Sorry.
Well,
Jennifer?
so I was just gonna say that, the statute really says that if you don't change your code, that the least restrictive setback would apply. So essentially, the developer could just build to what your standard is for your accessory setbacks. And if there were a challenge, the town could issue maybe a stop work permit for that and continue to challenge it, and then it would get into a legal fight. I did also want to share that there is litigation from home rule communities against the state related to several bills that were passed, I think in 2024, for basically usurping home rules authority in the state enacting mandates related to land use, zoning, that type of thing. That case is still in litigation. It's slow moving, but this is something that the state or that the cities are taking on, is challenging the state's idea that they have better knowledge and they know the ways for solving this affordable housing problem. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because we're still seeing legislation be introduced every session from the state issuing mandates.
Yep, there's more behind it. Does CML take a position on it?
Oh, always.
Yeah.
CML fights hard on all of these. And it just, it's frankly is often a losing battle, but CML takes a very active position. They get people to testify against these bills in the state or in the Senate, in the House. They're very active.
Okay.
Before we go too much farther, let me just go ahead and go through the process here. Is there anybody online that would like to make public comment on this issue? If so, please make yourself known. You'll introduce yourself. You'll have 3 minutes.
No public online.
Nope. I'll close the public comment and return back to discussion on this item.
So the state would supersede what the town has in their code.
That's what they're saying.
Mhm.
Which would make it messier, I would say, from a staff perspective, because that would be like a constant battle in my
It'd be
world.
legal issues constantly.
Yeah, so it would either be us, like Jenna was saying, like code enforcement doing that work stop order, but then also from like a planning perspective, that's typically what I'm doing, is looking for someone's setbacks, and I feel like that could get really messy fast. And the thing is, if this legislation changes and you guys decide, or the board decides they want to change that, you can always re-amend code.
Good. I don't see any losing position here. I don't, it's not a fight I want to fight. And, if the ground changes again, we'll deal with it.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody in the public's gonna like it a great deal, but that it considers, or I don't think the neighbors of the people building an ADU are gonna like it a lot.
I think you would, from what I've, and again, the wildfire resiliency code will be, coming forward here soon, but from everything that I've read in that, it creates so much restrictions as soon as you get up against a neighbor's lot that has a bunch of trees, or you now need to build that retaining wall, or you now want a privacy fence. So somebody's got to have a lot of money to build 5 feet up to their property
Will we
line.
see that soon, like in the next few months?
Yes.
Yes.
It's coming likely on Tuesday.
Oh, okay, yeah, but so like by next month, we might actually be getting this for something. What's the, I guess I don't understand.
It has to go through a first and second reading, which we don't do that for all of our ordinances, but this one is required. So it came to the board for discussion on last Tuesday, and then the proposed ordinance is coming on the agenda on Tuesday. And then the second reading, the hearing would be on the 17th.
So the planning commission will not see this. It's going directly to the BOT.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you can read up on it. It's not the state of Colorado. Like I've got it right here, the 2025 Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code.
Well, certainly, I think it would be good to hear what the impacts of that's gonna be, going
Yeah,
forward.
we can bring that forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to bring that as just like an informational, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other discussion, anybody online or other things in the room? This, again, when it's mandated changes, it makes the options limited.
So stand up and salute.
Especially when there's funding involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the timeline for this? This discussion item tonight, action item next time?
Yeah, so it's discussion item tonight with draft. Hopes would be that next month we could adopt this and then move it forward to the Board of Trustees. And then I would reach out to DOLA and in our portal and just let them, kind of everything that we've signed off on, I would submit it to them. And then they would submit a letter back to us stating we are in compliance, and then we could file that. So I get 120 days per response time is how it's worked out so far. And so I've just been contacting them each meeting we set and kind of giving them the timeline on these structures.
I'm not hearing from this board, you're gonna have a lot of resistance, and I think the timeline is quite doable.
Okay.
So is the DOLA grant in process right now that you're working on a DOLA grant?
So that's for the fast track. For the fast track, if I finish that with, I think it's by end of April, I can get $50,000. I can apply for 50K with that. And they're
Okay.
very supportive of that. And
They really want to give it to us.
yeah, I want to make that
They really want us to fast track
timeline.
our code
Yeah.
stuff.
Don't
Yeah.
disappoint them.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Anything, I don't wanna, just because folks are online, I don't wanna accidentally cut anybody off. Is there anything that anyone online has to add before we move forward with a vote?
Mike's not here. No, I don't have anything to add. I think it makes sense to move forward on this.
Oh, I guess there's no vote.
There's no vote.
Yeah, it's just discussion, but it does, I guess for me, a head nod would be great for that everyone's comfortable with us moving forward with bringing this as an action item next month. Okay, perfect.
Right on.
We knew we would.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to the next discussion item. The 6.2 fast track state requirements.
Okay, so this one's gonna be a little bit longer, but I am gonna.
You know, you can always ask John to help you with some of that. Read.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what's going on with me tonight. It's brain dead. I've been up since like 4. So for this one, I kind of want to go a little bit more in depth just so you guys have the background and everything, although I've trusted you've read it. If you feel like I'm going too much and you've really dived into this, please just let me know. So the purpose of this tonight is Colorado Prop 123 established State Affordable Housing Fund, and through its implementing legislation created eligibility requirements for local governments. That funding is administered through DOLA, One of these requirements is this affordable housing fast track approval, which essentially states qualifying projects must be completed in a final decision within a 90 calendar day. Beginning 2027, Nederland must satisfy this requirement to remain eligible for Prop 123 funding. If the town does not adopt and implement this fast track process, the town will be ineligible to receive direct funding under Prop 123. And affordable housing projects within Netherlands jurisdiction will also be ineligible to receive funding through the State Affordable Housing Fund. While adoption of fast track processing is not generally zoning mandate, it is a condition of eligibility for these funds. So our housing actions today. To support the compliance of 123 and expand housing opportunities, the town retained Bohannon and Houston to complete our housing study. We completed that back in October 2023. We committed to increasing our affordable housing stock by 9% or 13 units by December 31st, 2026. On December 5th, 2023, the board adopted Ordinance 855, amending sections 16-6, 16-31, and 16-32. Of the Nederland Municipal Code to expand and clarify permitted residential housing types. The ordinance added definitions to duplex, triplex, fourplex, and tiny house village, and amended the use group table to allow these types of housing in additional zoning districts either used by right or through special review use. These amendments were intended to increase our housing diversity and overall housing capacity within the town. The same evening, the board adopted Ordinance 856, which established the affordable housing development variance process and required deed restrictions for affordable housings receiving that variance. Ordinance 856 defined eligible criteria created by the Planning Commission review process and a minimum of 20-year deed restriction. Following that, the board and Planning Commission reviewed that again and increase that to at least 30 years. These actions reflect our ongoing efforts as a town to preserve our long-term affordability and increase that housing supply. So I'm not going to go over these current definitions. You guys have kind of already seen them. But what I wanted to go over is the fast track review requirements. So the fast track review process must apply to all applications in which 50% or more of the dwelling units are affordable for the purposes of compliance with that number there as defined below. For rental units, affordable means a monthly rent is less than or equal to 30% of the monthly income of a housing earning at or below 60% AMI. For sale units, affordable means monthly payments are less than or equal to 30% of the monthly income to a household at or below 100% AMI. The statute does not prescribe a required affordable protection mechanism or minimum term affordability. Nothing in the state law prohibits the town from maintaining a stricter deed restricted requirements for those other than this fast track eligibility. So the fast track process must render a final decision on a permit or approval required for affordable housing applications within 90 calendar days of the receipt of a complete application. The following application type are subject to this compliance: site plan, development plan, conditional or special review use, allowed use permit or approval, accessory dwelling unit, PUDs, subdivision of land, building permit, variances, floodplain development permit, hillside or slope development permit, and construction or engineer drawings. So now we're going to go kind of to the points here. I think what would be most useful is I am going to reading through this table is quite. I'll just read through this table.
I think we all.
I'll take a turn. You want to switch?
No, I'm trying to find the most, what I feel like is let's go through the key questions and then maybe I'll add some more.
Sure.
So really what was identified is I worked with a consultant that Boulder obtained and we were able to use for free to kind of help us go through our code and figure out what we needed to be, what our options were in order to meet this fast track requirement. So currently with that variance process, we do meet the 90 days. I was able to show that with the safe built time, the time for us going to the planning commission and the board. So we do meet that 90 days. However, here's kind of our two options. For affordable housing variance, the question before you is the town comfortable with allowing variances for affordable housing that contains 50% affordable housing? If not, is the town comfortable drafting a process that mirrors the affordable housing variance as it relates to timeframes and procedural detail, but does not allow for adjustment and modification to standards? So essentially someone not seeking that variance, we're offering them the same process with the same timeline. Some feedback that we got from the board is the board was pretty in favor of allowing that 50%. Right now, you have to be 100% affordable in order to get that variance. The board was comfortable with 50% of that, also allowing to have that. So
What does 50% mean? 50%?
50% of their project. So if they have 12 units, 6 of those, if they had 6 affordable, they could still get this variance, which again, the variance was 50% of all setbacks besides height.
Okay.
And so really what this fast track process they're wanting to see is we bring it down to 50%, or we create a whole nother process that is like, you're not doing the variance, it's 90 days, that kind of thing, one or the other. So we can discuss through it more. The second one is for our special reviews requirement. So their question before us was, is the town comfortable allowing affordable housing projects regardless of the unit type, which means it could be multifamily, single, duplex, triplex, fourplex, used by right in all districts where they're currently SRU only? So you'll see a chart above and they are highlighted where they're all currently restricted. Really, it's your mixed use in HDR and neighborhood commercial, and then your public districts. You'll see the duplex, mixed use, triplex, and fourplex is currently restricted, which is SRU. So they either want to see that all use by right, or they want to see the town applying an expedited timeline to our special reviews applications just for affordable housing. So we would essentially need to amend code or create some kind of process that states we will complete it all within that 90 days.
90 days is the time frame.
90 days completed approval. So that just needs to be like yes or no. It doesn't necessarily mean like we have to pass it. They need an answer is essentially what they're looking for in that timeline. They did give us suggestions to reach out to Safe Bill. I have reached out to Safe Bill. It does seem like Safe Bill is willing to put something into timeline to where they would bump up the affordable housing projects. And so what we'd be doing is as soon as one of those comes up, that would be bumped up in our plan review timeline to ensure we make these deadlines. This last one is not part of the compliance of fast track, but something they just mentioned. And that is our PUD requirements, which if you guys have remembered, this has been brought up in our comprehensive plan. It's now been brought up in this fast track plan. I believe it was brought up in another plan as well. Their question for us is, would the town be comfortable allowing multifamily unit above 4 dwelling units on a parcel or parcels totaling 1 acre without the requirement of a PUD? Their other kind of thing to this, because from what I've gathered, not a lot of communities are comfortable with that, is though the 90-day fast track timeline does not apply to PUDs, they are asking the town if we would be willing to explore getting that timeline down to 90 days. From what I've seen in the past, it seems PUDs can go, if there's some back and forth, can take a little bit longer. And so they would encourage us, if we're not comfortable in, keeping that PUD process, let's expedite it down so we can see more affordable, or whether it's affordable or just a housing project or commercial project. We're being really proficient with these developers.
Okay, before we go farther.
Yep.
Is there anybody online right now? Any public online?
There are no public online.
Okay. I have opened the public comment. Hearing none, I closed the public comment. Let's bring it back to the room for discussion on these items.
The only other thing I wanted to address is something that we've been doing as town staff in our reports is just identifying our administrative capabilities for this. So reviewing the development review timelines and the procedures, I, as staff and our other staff, believe we do have the capacity to do the 90 days. I've seen you guys be really efficient if we have a good staff report. And same with the board putting out those public notices. And so I do feel like we have the capacity to do this in all of those areas that they have identified. So just something I wanted to kind of outline.
So to clarify, if we disagree on one of the,
Mhm.
that 90 days, would that be in that time frame? If we disagree, or does that extend?
So the 90 days, we just need to have some form of decision.
Even if
So it
it's a
could be
no.
like, we deny it,
Deny.
but it needs to be, some kind of decision is made.
Okay,
And is that the planning commission and the BOT?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Yep. So essentially it would be from the time that I receive a complete packet, I would need to prepare everything, get it to review to Jennifer, and then public notices, get it to you all, and then public notices and get it to the Board of Trustees.
and the timeline would be extended after the 90 days if there is a disagreement or not?
I think at that point, that's not something that I've had experience with. I don't know if you've had,
I
do
wanna
they
say-
typically reapply or?
I think
Uh,
it depends on what happens, but
yeah.
I think, we could answer that question.
Yeah, and from what I was told with them is like, there are times where they would like this to be held, and obviously in our code. But they're expecting this might be a little wonky in the beginning of communities getting this timeline right.
Can figure it out.
Yeah, but I'm happy to ask for more clarification if you all would all like on what would happen if we got to a denial, or maybe there was like, make this adjustment and we're out of that 90 days, what would that look like? I'm happy to ask for that.
Just to boil down what we're then trying to figure out for tonight. The PUD requirement was something that was added by our BOT, not the
No,
state?
that was added by like through state. This is something they're encouraging. The only two things that we need to make a decision on and move forward on is our affordable housing variance under the key questions and our special review requirements. The PUD, they really just brought up in the sense of like, it's probably a good time for us to talk about it. Is this something we need to go ahead and put on a future meeting to start seeing if this is feasible for us?
Well, I can tell you, if Roger was here, he'd be losing his hair over the HUD requirement, possible change without a year's worth of engagement with the community.
Well, and, oh, okay. I was gonna say the board was very much, it sounded like, at least from what I gathered, the 90 days seemed appropriate, but they ultimately thought it was the planning commission's kind of say on that. But it did seem like some members were not totally comfortable with allowing the multifamily structures above 4. But ultimately they felt like this was your realm and this was your say on if we wanted to start tackling this. But that can be, for that item, I would say I'm looking for, would you like to see what that would look like on like a future meeting, so I could bring that back? Because the PUD and kind of the way the process has worked it was brought up by our comprehensive plan. It is a longer process. I think we could probably get there if there were some organizations or timelines of what that looked like. I think we could get it down to that.
I think what
But
we're
I don't
having is basically a changing of how, of thought process on how things are been done. The
Mhm.
process for Tungsten Village, the
Yeah.
process for the duplexes, that was long, so
Yeah.
that there was plenty of time for public engagement and neighbors to come out. I will tell you that we gave feedback multiple times on the
Mhm.
duplexes over by Knotted Root, and
Yeah.
they came back and they brought it back to us. So that would be a good question if
If
it's
it's
like, it has to
possible.
come before
Yeah.
here and you get it,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, is the answer, if we're not happy with it currently, we vote it down, but then you could come back,
Mhm.
in a meeting or two.
Yeah.
With some based on feedback. Worry about, and I think Roger would say this, is that the shorter you make the process, the
Mhm.
less opportunity for public engagement you have. So on the PUD thing, I will tell you, my feeling is, I'd like to see what that would look like. I'd like
Yeah.
to see the staff bring back some more information.
Yeah.
But I am not comfortable at all in that.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like that dramatically changes how we build in Netherland, regardless of the zone that we're in.
Yeah, and I think this again would be for a future meeting. The only way I could see that work is at least since I've been here, I've tried to put people before they apply.
Yeah.
To like, we obviously can't be biased. That's something Jennifer told us, like, we can't be like, necessarily you need to do this. There can be like kind of a general feedback, but getting that in front of people's faces, encouraging them to have community meetings about like, this could be coming forward. These are my designs. I think that is a way I could see us getting there by doing that work ahead of time. But I think that, like you're saying, that's a lot more conversation that the PC needs to have on what that looked like.
Clearly,
And
that's a great hack right there.
Yeah.
Is to be able to say, look, you increase, and it's two different things.
Yeah.
If the developer's like, or whoever it is like, I gotta get this done in 90 days, and they probably don't wanna come a
Yeah.
month ahead of time and present.
Yeah.
But like for Ron Mitchell, who brought us, the Amsterdam
Yeah.
stuff and got feedback, which was mostly positive from us.
Yeah.
And a few, ideas on things they could do. I think the car elevators
Yeah.
was something that we weren't very in favor of.
Yeah.
But it allowed him to take that feedback and decide, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, he didn't continue on with that. But I think
Yeah.
that's a great opportunity, because the clock doesn't start until the application is complete and turned in.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. Great point.
Well, and I think also with the requirement not being met for the PUDs, we need to know exactly what it is that's not being met. Does that make sense?
So there's not technically, we're fine with PUDs right now. It's just something they brought up of like, they would like to see more communities making that a more efficient process.
Stream,
right. Yeah, streamlining it. How can we get it to be faster? If it is like an affordable project that needs to be PUD, is there a way to get that a little bit quicker than what the current timelines they're seeing? But it's not a requirement of tonight. We don't have to make a decision on that tonight. That can be a later conversation.
The conversation with the Tungsten Village went on for quite a long time.
almost 2 years.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that was a big,
I came to 10 meetings as a member of the public, supporting that, and it was a process. I don't
Yeah.
understand, we don't seem to have the public engagement for a lot of projects right now that
Yeah.
we have had in the past, STRs and Tungsten Village and different things. But even the two duplexes or the ones over by Canada Route, we were getting 8-10 people
mhm.
coming out and unhappy about the height and different things that they wanted, so,
I think this gives us the opportunity to see our other communities going after it. And then like that, this gives me something to research personally as staff. Like, are other communities trying it? Are they simplifying it? I don't think this is like a now decision or even like it's gonna happen in the next couple of months. I think this is like, this gives us something that the state is looking at and they're bringing to all of our communities. So let's see who acts on it and
Also with
kind of
the
go from there.
other required changes, it gives us the chance to build the system for what we need to do, and then you guys can always adjust it from there.
Yeah,
so we're kind of going in the questions in reverse order, because I think the PUD requirement,
it's not
was all
required.
easier.
Yeah.
but is there feedback from folks online about the PUD requirements, or is there anybody who's like, I absolutely don't agree with this, or are most of us in agreement that we'd like to kind of see more information on how that what the impact of that would look like?
Commissioner Penzinger here supporting the research for additional information.
Yeah, accidentally close
No,
out.
you're good.
Commissioner Dyer here as well, and I agree.
Thank
I
you.
think more information is needed. And I am concerned about expedited timelines, especially for units of greater than 4.
Yeah.
Because those are the ones that are really likely to really need extensive community feedback, like we've already discussed.
Mhm. All right,
Okay,
I have what I need for that,
great.
unless anyone has any more.
Yeah, you've got head nods.
Okay,
Right.
yeah.
I was
Uh,
just gonna ask if have we yet determined what the affordable housing is based on the formula? Do we have any sense of what that is at this point?
$22,000.
And we will be bringing kind of like an informational, this is what our current code says. Tom sent some really helpful information from the county. So we'll be bringing that at next meeting, just to kind of show you, this is where we're currently at.
Mhm.
And just get some information from there from you all. So that will be coming next month. I wasn't sure how in depth these conversations would get tonight, and you guys were way more on board than I thought, so
we read through it.
Yeah, I didn't want to throw too much at you just in case this was a little more discussion.
It's, and we don't have a shotgun to our head is to make it. Okay,
There's no
what,
timeline.
we have, what kind of deadline do we have, if any?
For the AMI?
Yeah, no, or no, for,
The PUD.
for making a decision.
Oh, the PUD is not, there's no timeline associated with that. The two above, I would like to get these amendments before the board by like April.
Okay,
That helps.
So, yeah, I know that's like kind of fast moving, but
what is called fast track?
yeah, what I would like
We're in the
to,
Fast track now.
yeah, if we were comfortable with going one or the other. Something that I had brought up is, and you know, obviously I'd like Jennifer to speak on, but if we were comfortable enough in bringing a draft ordinance next meeting as an action item, and then if it was totally inappropriate or you guys didn't like something, then we continued it.
Mhm.
That might be a good approach to think about. If you next meeting, you're like, oh, it's exactly what we thought. I don't know, Jennifer, if that's appropriate to say, but it seems like it could be efficient for the timeline that we have on this one.
Yep, you could definitely do that if that's what the direction is.
Okay.
My preference would be to have it come as an action item, and if we had to continue it for, because of robust discussion or something like that, or we need more information, we could always continue it on to, you know, rather than have it be, we're all in agreement and have to wait another month
Yeah.
to vote on it.
The only other thing I want to bring up is this grant that you've applied for, the CEO grant. What we're applying for is the ability for a consultant to work with us for some pre-planned designs for ADUs. But I can't remember, were other designs like for duplexes and multiplexes a part of that?
They're mainly focusing on ADUs.
It was just ADUs?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
and helping us look at more ways to make ADUs easier to build here. So looking at, do we allow more than one if the setbacks are there and things like that? So looking at that code on that.
Yeah, my only thought is I've seen this across multiple jurisdictions across the United States, is that there is a fourplex design already approved. If a developer came in and pointed and said, I'll do that, then that could potentially speed up the PUD process. And so that's why I was asking if that grant
Yeah.
applied to some of the multifamily stuff as well.
Let me double check. I want to say it's ADU only, but that's a really
But
good
if you could
point.
slide it in.
Or, yeah, I was gonna say, or look for a grant that also does
Well,
that.
and I have folks
Yeah.
like that work on this exact thing,
Yeah.
that it's like, oh, a fourplex, here's the two designs you're approved of. Oh, you want eightplex? Here are the three designs that the community has already approved of. So that may be worthwhile for us to consider anyway,
Mhm.
as a part of this process, because 122 units or whatever that we're behind on as a community for affordable housing.
Yeah, and that grant she's talking about is the one that Cass brought to us last time. So like if there was a pre-approved plan process, that would go through the engineer, that would go through you guys as the public, as the planning commission, the board of trustees. So that would be like a process that like we have stamped off and staff could say, it fits setbacks, this is appropriate. And so that's what she's bringing up in regards to the PUD. That could be something that speeds that part up, and maybe that's addressed with different language or like another process of some sort.
I could see that working really well, because those plans would be reviewed by us.
Yep.
Ahead of time, and
Yeah.
we would point out all the issues and problems. And then we would say, okay, this drainage issue over here that we're concerned about, it's been addressed, all those things.
Yeah.
If you meet within these, so I like that
Yeah.
idea. Anybody have anything else they want to add to that?
The only downside would be when you have 122 identical ADUs, but you look at a boot camp.
Well,
Right, and I think that's a good call out, is like ADU versus like a duplex, a fourplex, a multifamily, unit or whatever. We can kind of right size the design to whatever the unit number is.
Some of the build books too, some of those units can be skinned differently, I guess you'd say.
Sure.
Yeah.
So there is some possibility to do that if you get the general structure correct.
I mean, this one consultant I was talking to in Atlanta, they had these, like, it was a fourplex, but it looked like a house.
Mhm.
It was a beautiful Victorian house.
Hmm.
But it was a fourplex.
And you couldn't pick out where all the entrances were?
But you couldn't pick out that it was like what we think of as like a 4-unit apartment building.
Like an
Okay.
ugly
Right?
square.
Well, I think that's what we're used to
And
seeing.
that's what we're
Yeah.
used to seeing. And when
Yeah.
he was showing me these designs, I'm like, oh my gosh, our community
Yeah.
would love this.
Yeah,
Like, it's beautiful, like you would never know. And he says, that's the point, is like, once you can start to show the community, like, this is what we're talking
Yeah.
about when we say fourplex
Mhm.
or eightplex. It's the conversation just rolls so much easier.
I'm comfortable, knowing that
Yeah.
Washington DC has, the same row house that gets repleted block after block after block. We don't have to do that.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, we can do it to fit. And in fact, yeah, I can pull in some designs and show
Yeah.
you them and like connect you to the, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
So I don't think anybody is against a faster process for allowing for more housing to be built. I think it is the process, public notification, and all
Yeah.
those things, to allow feedback from the community. And like I said, I remember a time not very long ago in the last 10 years where we had a lot of public, opinions and feedback on a lot of items that they're just kind of waning right now. But I guarantee you, if something came up and we were talking about a big project, you would see the folks come out of the woodwork, and it would be a lot better to have it be on the front end, not after it's already been,
Right.
and building is starting, and now you've got people showing up at the BOT shaking their fist and mad.
Yeah, as a rental property
I have a
owner.
comment I wanted to
outlet.
add in there.
Yeah.
Like in terms of cost of what it would take to create these pre-approved plans, both in terms like economic cost if it requires hiring engineers, and also in terms of staff time. Not that we need to get into that right now, but that's something that should be considered. Like,
These
if
designs
those are
are,
factors.
so that's one of the things that cuts the cost is these designs, typically these design books, all of the designs are engineered stamped. So what you have to do is build an appropriate pad and then site
Gotcha.
design, but it significantly cuts your engineering costs.
And the
Okay,
goal
great.
to we have a grant that we're pursuing and seeing if they would, because that was one of the things they were talking about covering is like pre-approved plans. So it wouldn't be like something the town goes and funds themselves. It would definitely be, I'm looking for more grants, or hopefully I can,
Gotcha.
do-
Okay, great.
yeah.
In theory, it could
Is that
make
a hum-
everybody's life easier, and then maybe you spend a little bit more designing the outside of yours a little bit different or whatever, but then like generally we know the hookups are in the same place, it requires this amount of water, that kind of stuff, like is all figured out. And the pad has to be within a certain spec or whatever it is.
Let's go back to the first key question.
Yeah.
Affordable housing variance. Is the town comfortable with allowing variances for affordable housing that only contains 50% affordable housing? And now let's tackle this one and see what the opinion is on that.
And again, it's currently must be 100% affordable. And so this would drop that down to they're eligible for that variance by being 50%,
Okay.
just to clarify.
So that would open up more
Yes.
possible builders
Mhm.
to pursue this.
Correct.
Tom, we were asking-
Affordable only though.
Going back
Yeah.
to the comfortable with 50% affordable housing being in the fast track.
I am.
Okay. I also think that's a pretty good number. I actually thought that the typical number was 30% for affordable housing, things that the builder could get. So the idea that we would have half of the housing meet the affordable housing guideline, I think is pretty good.
The Townsend Village ended up being,
Now that's 100%.
is that 100%?
Yes, because that's a county, that's their.
That's right, that's right.
It's also a lot more units than we're anticipating with, most of our stuff. We're looking at.
How many units is it?
26.
6 units.
And because the community came out and yelled and screamed, it came down from 34. Because it was gonna be 34, and boy, we could sure use those extra
Yes.
units right now.
Yep.
But I kind of feel like the vibe in town about, no change ever, stop it in its tracks is kind of like, we see what it might look like, and maybe I could be convinced. It feels like we're kind of turning a quarter from, let's just keep Ned
Well, and I-
forever.
But what Nicole is saying too, if you have the appearance of something completely different than what
Correct.
everyone's used to seeing, that will definitely bring out the public and sway their opinions on what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
Again, not,
Seeing a triplex in
not
their
cookie
area.
cutter type situation.
Anybody else have any feedback on the 50%? Are you comfortable with 50% being the number for affordable housing to allow that for fast tracking? You could give us a thumbs up if you don't have anything to say.
Yeah, thumbs up from Elizabeth.
Yeah, I think I'm okay with that.
Okay, perfect. So I've got what I need there. Do you want to read the second question or?
Sure, special
Gosh.
review, are we still on the top one?
No, this,
Well,
but-
okay.
no, because you
Yeah.
guys made that decision. I
Special
don't-
review
we don't do that.
requirements, is the town comfortable with allowing affordable housing projects regardless of unit type, multifamily, single family, duplex, triplex, or fourplex, by right in all districts where those use types are currently allowed only by special review?
And again, the chart is above if you want to address what that looks like. It is really only HDR, currently mixed use is SRU, and so that would become used by right. Neighborhood commercial, mixed use would become used by right. A public would become used by right for mixed use, duplex, triplex, and fourplex. So this is really option one of,
Does give me a little bit of heartburn.
that's fair.
Can you expand a little bit, buddy?
Especially for the larger units. Triplex
Yeah.
is not, and just, is one thing to have like a single ADU. I think I would be much more okay with that. But to have something else much larger with the larger community impact, I think it needs a little bit more careful consideration. Does that help?
Yes, absolutely. So then why you're kind of talking unless you want, do you want everyone to answer this first, or since he's talking to you, are you okay with? Would you be more comfortable then? Our second question would be, if you're not comfortable with that, then we would need to apply an expedited timeline to special review uses
I'm sorry.
for affordable housing. So if you're not comfortable with that first one, that is the second route we would go. What's your thought process on that? So instead of, it would still go through a special review use, it was just for affordable housing only. We would make sure that we stay within that 90 days.
With the special review.
Special review, not PUD. So special review, as you guys have seen, it's a lot easier of a process to me. It's really one that I can address by code and put right in front of you. Where a
Mhm.
PUD. a lot more in-depth.
My personal opinion is I should have read that second bullet. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Is that, yes, I would prefer it still continue to be a special review under expedited timeline, at least now. I mean, a lot of this is pretty new stuff.
Yeah.
And we can kind of update or change some things later if we find it's not working the way we want, but I feel like that would be a really good, measure in between where we could still get eyes on this and give the opportunity for public review. And in the past, we've had SRUs where we did a special work session
Mhm.
for the SRU so that, because
We
we
had
had some
time.
timeline issues and the builders
Yep.
were, and then the public came in
Mhm.
and, we notified everybody. So I feel like it's very doable within the 90 days, even if we had to,
Yep.
jump through it and maybe have an extra meeting or something
Yeah,
here.
and that's currently what our variance code says is if, like, say they submit it and we don't have a meeting within that timeline, then the PC is required to hold a special meeting. Mhm.
Great minds.
Yeah,
Yep.
I like that a lot.
So
better.
yeah, Mike, how are you feeling on that one?
Yeah, just like Jim said, that's far more palatable because then there's still a process.
Yep. Okay.
I agree with what Mike's saying. There's still a process that we go through.
Although to
And thumbs
play
up.
devil's advocate for myself, I imagine that a developer would far more rather have it just stamped and yes, go ahead, don't need any review. It begs the question of like how much of a deterrent is having the SRU in place at all, even if it's expedited. And I imagine if I were a developer, that would probably be significant.
Well, and all,
I still think, yeah. I do.
all
think
the
that
neighbors
should still
within-
be in place, yeah.
Yeah.
Over. Go ahead.
all the neighbors, within, what is it, a 200-foot radius or something like that, 100-foot radius? Is it 300? Okay.
Yep.
Get notified, so they would have the opportunity to come in, you know, and have their say, you know, one way or the other, ask questions and those things. As opposed to, you know, it might slip by, you know, if it was a use by right.
Not in my neighborhood.
Not in your neighborhood, that's true.
And I think too, you could, if you all feel comfortable going this way for now, that we've met compliance, right, with making these two decisions. If we have affordable housing projects come up, when you're seeing how developers, because they're gonna be working directly with John and I on a lot of it, to get them there, so we're setting them up for success, you might find that you change your mind and you do feel comfortable with that in the future. So there's always time to think about, how are they being presented? How has staff process changed? Do I want to amend this in the future? I think it's a great step to start with a timeline, and then if we get there, we reevaluate that as the year goes on. That's an opportunity as the PC to see if you're seeing, like, you're comfortable with that as we see these affordable housing projects come up.
Okay, I'd like to see this come back as an action item next month also, and we can have further discussion on it. And, you know, and are we also in the same kind of timeline as the previous one, where we want to try and get this to the BOT by April or May? Is that what we're looking at?
Yes, so if we could get this approved and adopted next month, then I could go to them. I would have to go, the first meeting's canceled because of the election, so probably with public noticing, unless I just preemptively public notice. No, I would still have to go to the second April meeting. So I'd like to have this adopted by the end of April.
Okay.
Yeah,
Which would require us to vote on it next.
yes.
Is there any actual timelines that you have to meet regarding this? Like,
It needs to be, I think it's technically like end of April, beginning of May.
okay, so-
That I would need to just say, hey, we have compliance. And so my ask would be, if we didn't feel comfortable, I would love to hold, even if it's a quick virtual meeting, a special meeting to make sure we meet those timelines. If this weren't to get past next month, I feel pretty confident based on the feedback I'm getting right now. And with, you know, Jennifer's help, that I think we can have a ready to go.
Let's go for it.
Any feedback from our commissioners online? Thumbs up or down or problems?
No, I think that sounds great, moving forward with that. I think this is the time to talk about the definition of affordable a little bit, if people are open to that conversation.
It's coming up in the next meeting.
So
It's not really on the agenda.
my plan was to, go ahead.
It was more actually, we didn't need to get into it, but I did have an idea and a request for information.
Okay,
And
yeah, go ahead.
specifically, I remember seeing some statistics and like breakdowns about salaries and wages in the Netherland area. I believe it was from the most recent census. But
Yes.
if there are any
It's
available resources beyond the census of like, I don't know, tax records, other surveys, I think that would be extremely useful in our conversation about what affordable means.
That's not a thing, really. The census data is the
Yeah.
best source of information,
Yeah,
and it's 122,000. That's the AMI for the Netherlands.
Yep.
area. Boulder,
Yeah.
well, I'll show you the data so you can see it. A good
Yeah.
source that you can look at it is the Boulder Community Foundation, and we can walk through their data set at our next meeting, but that's that data is reliable, I'm fairly confident in it.
yeah. Well, what I was hoping to be able to get is a little bit more granular data, because I mean, just the average of 122,000, I mean, that's useful, but that averages everything together. People making minimum wage and everybody making
There's
very, very
other
high salaries. Yeah.
There is other data. You can look at it by a breakdown of salary bands, which is really what I was trying to tell you all last time, is the median data doesn't help. That doesn't do anything for you. So, but when you look at the housing needs assessment by how much housing is needed at each space within the continuum, that's the question that is more important. I also do want to tag, I think this is a Board of Trustees question more than a Planning Commission question. But what we could do is discuss it at our next meeting and then bring that back to see if they want you guys to keep exploring that as a policy issue. So I just want to make sure I'm
Yeah,
kind
great.
of that forward.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
But Jim, or I'm sorry, Mike, you can, if you look at the Boulder Community Foundation, they have a new data website on their page that is beautiful. And it breaks it down from Boulder County and then all the different communities within Boulder County. And there's economic data, there's sustainability data, there's housing data, a wide variety of different that you can use from there. And some of it is also informed by local data collection sources as well. So you can, it's all attributed on the website.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Is it accurate then that at this point we don't have what that rent equals per bedroom as far as considered affordable? Price per bedroom?
You do, because you can take the median income, and then if you use the rule that 30 to 35% of your income is what's considered cost burdened, you can use that definition, but the state doesn't even have an affordable housing definition. So I think it's not so much what an affordable housing definition is, it's looking at that methodology of 30 to 35% of what
But-
income is. I think what
Yeah.
you see, median household rent in Netherlands is $14.50 right now. Or it was when the data set was created, so
Is that 1450 per bedroom?
$14.50 total per unit, that they don't break it down aggregated into the bedrooms. But I think that that's the problem with this median data, is that it's not, it creates issues of looking at what the different housing types are. But we can bring this back forward to you for the agenda, and we can break down what they have and then what we can know.
So with the median, that means that half the rent is below 1450 in our town? Is that what the median means? That
It
half is
could.
above and half is below?
It doesn't, it could be 1449 or whatever as well. Like, it doesn't, with the way the math works, it's hard to say exactly what it is. But that's what the median data shows on the that they're showing on the page.
And that's the same for a 1-bedroom unit or a 4-bedroom unit?
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, that could be another thing, this is where it comes into like where there's some board questions here. Because at some point there could be a survey about this, but we should talk about this when it's on the agenda, I think. And really dive in at that point. But I can tell you median household income in Boulder County is 103,000. It's a 12% change since 2010, essentially. 11% of households are below poverty level. And then when you look at just housing straight up, Netherlands median home value is $700,000. And when you look at rental data, that's what you see, is you see the 1400-ish range. But there's a lot of data on there that you guys could explore, and then we could talk about this more as we kind of dive into this issue.
I think it's really worthwhile to get a clearer sense of that, because I have a feeling that there could be more affordable housing leases under agreement currently than we realize, because people just, there are people that are renting probably at affordable rates. And maybe we don't know that we could be contributing or helping the town by providing a copy of that lease or something to say that we're doing that.
I think that is a board question. It's because the issue, and it's going towards a policy decision. But I think that you guys kind of looking at the data and thinking about maybe bringing forward work to them to look at might be a really good idea. But the median in the ACS was $1,453. So that could be getting a little bit old. But if you look at the upward trend, they're trending towards 1740 in 2029 based on the ACS 5-year data. But I think ultimately we'll bring a staff report to you so you can see this during our next meeting, and then we'll take direction.
Thank you.
Just to kind of tie a bow on 6.2 there, do you have everything you
I do.
need from us on that?
Yeah, so what I got is you guys are comfortable with moving forward with the 50% on the variance. And then that SRU process, really identifying that that's 90 days. I will work with Jennifer to bring back this as an action item for next month. And if anything changes or we need to make amendments at the time, we can readdress it then.
Okay,
So I think I'm good there.
great.
So you'll see both of these items next month as action items.
Okay. Okay, any further discussion before we get into town reports on anything there? Related to what we were discussing, knowing that we're gonna be seeing more AMI info in the future. Okay. Let's turn it over to you, staff members. What do you got for us?
Yeah, so these were my big things in my world. You will have a land use application coming forward next month, as long as all goes as planned. And just kind of really starting to dive into our work plan. We did get feedback. Oh, I forgot to mention, we did get feedback last month from the board to start looking into, now that Safe Built wants to amend their contract, are we gonna go ahead and move forward with an RFP process in early spring? So we did kind of get that direction just based on experience that we've had this past year. We also haven't gone through that process since 2007, with our building company. Other than that.
Almost 20 years. Wow.
Yeah. Other than that, I have really, all staff has really been focusing on trying to help with West Wing project, with Dawn's team, with her kind of leading that project. We've gotten a lot of the units cleared out or,
I
Connex
don't
is
know if
here.
everybody knows what's going on with the West Wing. Can you just give us a quick
Do you want to give a
summary?
rundown?
Yeah, so in the fire, we lost a significant amount of commercial space in Netherland, which is really challenging for our community. And so in the immediate aftermath, the board passed an emergency ordinance that gave me certain powers to expedite processes for those folks that were affected. And in that work, we helped several of the artists relocate, such as the Stained Glass Studios now in the old Alpaca store. And then, there's been some creative uses of space downtown for other retail spaces, but we just don't have enough. And I think like one of the biggest there's a couple really big impacted people. And one was Boulder County Sheriff, one was the Tadasana, and one was the laundromat. Those are the ones that are the hardest to find space for. So in the first, probably November timeline, we're legally required by contract to provide the Boulder County Sheriff's Office with a substation. And the most logical place that I can think of to put it is where it used to be, which is in the corner of the West Wing, which over on the end there on the west side. And so we took a tour over there, and in looking at it, we found out that there just need to be some changes just to make sure that it was safe from a fire perspective. So there's been a lot of storage over there of important community things. There's our emergency supplies for if we're using this as a shelter, which includes like cots and MREs and water and dog kennels and diapers, like all that kind of stuff you need if there's a fire. Teens Inc. has some space in there. The Toffee folks have a space in there. Farmers Market has a space in there. Food pantry still has some storage in there, but there's a lot of different things it's just really vital community space. But in walking through the fire, we made the determination that there need to be some changes just to make sure that given the fact that we have recently had a fire. So we are working right now on cleaning it out to bring it up to the level it needs to be for a storage space. But the other thing is when the building was remodeled, which was in 2007,
Something like that.
I'm pretty sure it was 2000. It was right after the big blizzard,
Yeah.
When the roof collapsed. There was originally plans to redo the West Wing too, but it wasn't able to happen because of design choices that were made for the rest of the building, which is not bad, but it was always supposed to be worked on over time. And, we all know the reality that
Resources.
Yeah, money is really the thing.
The master plan.
Yeah.
Stuck with this.
Yeah, which is I don't think that was a bad call, but it meant that one of the things that needed to happen over there is the old fire alarm is not interconnected to the building. So what we need to do is put in a new fire alarm over there that would interconnect to this building, which is good for the whole community. And then we can look at some of the space you know, as we're kind of going through this with fire and looking at it with different people and folks and like just exploring what that space is, it's been, people have been talking about tearing it down for forever. There's nothing structurally wrong with the building. It's totally fine. It just needs, it needs to be taken care of. We need to remediate some things in there, make sure it's safe. We need to clean it up and just make it a usable space, but it could be. And we're talking about a significant amount of square footage that would go a long way towards replacing some of these community needs that we have. And so that's kind of what we've been working on. The first step is getting the storage level under control, which we've done. I think we still have some work to do there, but it's getting a lot better over there. And then step 2 would be putting the fire alarm, which has to happen no matter what. And then step 3 is kind of determining a long-term plan. That's something the board has been kind of talking about a little bit. And I think one of the things that we know now is that to tear down a building where you have to consider it to have asbestos, which this building would, and we'll mitigate the asbestos no matter what, like that's happening no matter what. But that demolition process may cost upwards of $2 million. So it isn't simple matter of it's cheaper to tear down the building and build a new one. It may be better to remediate the asbestos and use that space again as commercial space, or as like maybe we have a dedicated boardroom in there or something like that, but just using that space that we have. It's also, when you think about kind of the historic fabric of Nederland, I think this building is part of that, and we don't have a ton of that left. And so there is something to be said for, could we restore that building? And it could be what it's been since it was built in the 40s. I think it was built in the 40s, right? Late 30s or
Early 50s.
Yeah.
This part,
yeah.
that part, no.
Okay. Well, either way, that's something that has been being talked about. So the board still has to decide its ultimate fate. But for now, being able to put the sheriff's office over there, which would be fine with the alarming system, and being able to maintain the commercial space we have, or not commercial, it's just community space for the library and all the different folks that use it, it would be really good. And so that's kind of what we've been focusing on. So for the last couple of weeks, you may have seen on like social media, we've given a lot of stuff away that was over there. We've gotten to the part where throwing stuff away is going to become a little more challenging, but we still need to do that. So we've been,
Cleanup day's coming.
yeah, we've been navigating that space. So, but we're getting there. I think fire has been happy with our progress. It's been a big lift for staff, like Britt said. I think pretty proud of everybody's come and helped, which is amazing. So, and it's good for us. We do need to go through all of our buildings and start thinking about what's stored there and how we're processing it. And then also just, you know, the other kind of truth about Nederland is over the past 20 years, those same limited resources have meant that we haven't really had a huge capital maintenance plan on the buildings. It's been really reactive. And so that's something that I have been working on, is how can we start thinking about these buildings and resources a little bit differently and start, you know, even when we don't have money, can we make a capital plan just to make sure that we're taking care of the things that we have? And that's not to suggest anybody hasn't. It's just, it's been difficult to budget for things like that because we're also, you know, really focused on the toilets flushing kind of jobs. And so that's the other piece of this, is it's been a really great opportunity to really start working on that job. So we do have quite a bit of space. It's just, you know, we have in some cases hundreds of years of, hundreds, but at least 100 years of stuff in some places, which we just need to, yeah.
Are all of our town records still in the corner over here?
They are. And so Britt and Macy and I are going to be very soon taking them out of where they are. We have those connexes out front. They'll probably go in there temporarily. We also, I don't know if you know, we have a tough shed at town hall that has got a lot of things in it as well. And then the old jail cell at town hall is also full of records. So that's a big project for us that we're going to be working on this year, is going through that stuff and shredding what needs to be shredded and maintaining stuff. And then we've also been working on digitizing files. So we may try to get another grant for that for some of our older plats that are, you know, like one example, we have the original 81 zoning map, the original, and it is time to preserve that document. So
Definitely.
those kinds of things are kind of working. And I will say Britt has like really helped spearhead this whole effort, and it's been really helpful to have that work done.
Great.
Yeah, sorry. So I did want to add, I thought it was exciting. So, we did have a grant through MENV, through CU Boulder with those students to do a resiliency action plan. And Cass and I have been meeting with them bi-weekly. Very random, but Billy Gibbons' brother is actually on our team, which is really cool to see someone from the community. And then we have 2 other students that are very familiar with the area. And so you will all start seeing them soon. They're gonna be doing some community outreach with us, and we'll be introducing them to the boards. They're kind of working directly with SAB. They're gonna be, meeting with the Board of Trustees. I would definitely like to bring them to meet you all as well. But been doing a lot of work there to really focus in on all the plans we currently have, kind of addressing some of those resiliency actionable plans we've had over the couple year, the past like 10+ years, and like why have some of these high priority items not happen? So looking into that stuff with them. So it's really cool to have that different perspective. Another thing that I've kind of been working on the side is I've started really with the PCs, getting all of our like meetings and agenda items accessible. So that's something that I'm working on the website when I get time here and there. It's something I'd like to really get us there with each department and kind of start teaching the other departments like how to make a document accessible. We've got great software for it. But it's really just educating everyone so we can slowly start making that process because it is quite an undertaking.
Brett had to do the budget this year and it was.
The budget
awful.
took
It
me
was
like 10 to
terrible.
12 hours
Yeah.
to just put it into perspective because each photo or each logo needs to be a description. You also need to make sure that it manually reads like left to right. So does this make sense for someone who can't see and they're now hearing this audibly? Does this make sense if it's reading over an ordinance or things like that? And so one of my projects for next year for the budget to avoid that will be teaching staff how to make that accessible in the first place. So then hopefully by the time I get it, it's really just cleaning up some of those logos and things like that. But yeah, that's something I'd really like to have. We do have some really cool software that Peter got before he left that goes through our website and tells me what is currently not accessible and so what I need to start working on. And so I'm slowly kind of changing out things in my field so I can train other people up on that as well. So like our building permits, things like that. So we'll slowly get there. That'll be its own process. But something that I've kind of tried to make a priority in my world on top of, the fire stuff, the West Wing, and then kind of all the stuff I'm bringing to you guys. We did submit that grant that Cass and I brought to you guys last time. That has been submitted. We are really excited to see what feedback we get.
Do we get strong encouragement to apply?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So we have officially applied with that strong encouragement because otherwise we would have shut it down. And we had a pretty strong, we wrote a pretty strong kind of essentially like a summary of why we would like to get the one like fully covered 0% match. We did have data in there that we were able to use. So we're really hoping for that. Other than that, building permits are still going. Our code enforcement is the highest I've ever seen it in winter. It is a fun year for code enforcement.
Because there's not much snow.
There's not much snow and people hate lights. And so that is something that we have a new safety vault person that I'm really training them on, and I will be training them on next week. So just something that's peaked up in my world that takes me from others. So I'm hoping as we go forward with this RFP process, if we don't move forward with Safeville, I can really find a company that will take away some of that off my plate. So my focus can really be planning and zoning. Because I
trained somebody who isn't gonna be here next month.
Yes, correct. Yes. Other than that, the main thing I wanted to address is really our staff right now, especially like our streets, parks, and our utilities is really working on those maintenance things. Okay, it's not snowing, so what other things can we accomplish? Drainage, ditch. Yeah. So there's a lot of, we're doing maintenance on our vehicles, maintenance
Yep.
on our machinery, just making sure everything, now that we have this time, we're being productive with it. Kind of looking at our processes, making our plans for the summer. The team is all kind of working together on, once this project starts moving forward with Caribou Village, like the team's going to be involved. These are conversations we are going to start having.
Yep.
So we're still keeping really, in that world and just kind of planning, and as the snow comes or doesn't come, going from there. So it's really cool to see some of our, some of those people earning certifications and really get our stuff up to working condition. So when it's needed, it's ready.
That's great.
Yep. Other than that, not too many updates. We're all in the weeds. We're all pretty busy. And we're all kind of excited to see, what comes from this election, the strategic planning, and then, you know, I'm excited to see what progress we make this year.
I didn't, look at it yet, but is all this work in the budget for 2026?
No, not at all.
Okay, what's your plan?
We're gonna have to do a supplemental budget in April, no matter
Okay.
what. So we will be correcting some of those things. You know, the way a supplemental works is the overall fund balance is what's important is when it's triggered,
Mhm.
but there will need to be one for the work. So I have an $8,000 expense I have to do and we can't wait. It's just an emergency to get, not an emergency, but close to it for the alarm.
Yeah.
So I'm still getting quotes and bids for that, but I think we'll probably execute that project with board approval just to, you know, it's within my purchase authority, but we'll probably bring that back forward. And then the other stuff will be, we're talking about there's a lot of things happening in supplemental budget world where we're really thinking through, you know, in our budget process before, we were still operating under the assumption that, you know, without that Eldora was moving forward, but always with the idea that it's a, you know, that the decision is still progressing. And now that the TSA and APA are done, that's a little bit more sure. So we'll have a supplemental that's kind of related to all of that work
Mhm.
as we move forward. And then there's a couple other things happening that we'll probably cover. One big thing is I probably need to start thinking about having a deputy manager. And that's something that we've been talking about. That would be something that we would try to bring forward too.
Mhm.
And then looking, I think, also at how we compensate our boards is, I think, a really valuable thing. We've talked about advisory boards like having rec center passes. The Board of Trustees hasn't gotten a raise since 2014. And they're probably the lowest paid board in the state. And I think that's probably something that maybe not.
Get any money before then.
Yeah.
But it just
Do it for the
doesn't,
money.
it doesn't match the compensation levels you see across the state. And I think that with the increasing complexity of what this town is and what it requires, I think we need to be thinking about our boards and commissions. And for me, it's really important as a town manager. I think you guys have done a good job of doing a lot with a little on staff compensation, but I think you value people when you tell them you value them. And I think one of the things we need to recognize is our boards are working really hard and that we need to show that value back. And so that's something that we'll also bring forward.
Good.
But yeah, there will be a supplemental budget. One other really kind of big important point, just relative, is one of the big things that I wanted to do when I got here originally was have the earliest audit in the entire state and have the first audit turned into the state out of everybody, because that has been a challenge in the past. We'll be earlier than we were last year, and last year we were really early. So
Yeah.
that's a big deal, because then this summer, you know, Rita will be retiring this summer, which is really great for her and sad for all of us.
Mhm.
She's a really important part of our team.
Mhm.
But that means that if the audit is done, when we start transitioning, you know, a budget process with a new person, I'll speak from experience, is a lot. So we want to try to give them the longest runway possible. So that's something that we'll also be starting to think about, is what our next finance position looks like. And it might change a little bit, just given the complexity of what we'll be doing with this new enterprise fund. So those are the things that we've been working on. And then, you know, there's a lot of other things that are happening. Big Springs egress is progressing to the point that it will be talked about soon. I think we've got some really good outcomes that are potential, but we need to keep that pushing really hard. So you'll see that coming forward in the near future. We've also got legal sign off on our SMS, putting that out to bid. So we need to get that out to bid. And TIPS is working on temporary easements, which is really great. So they'll have that project working very soon as well. But that's my other big goal, is these projects have been going on forever. I want them off the books. We're going to be doing new stuff, not what we've been doing for a long time. So I'm really excited about the potential of having Big Springs, TIPS, and SMS all crossed off, which will be great. But those, you know, I think that's really the important thing, is work continues. We have new big things happening, but the things that are happening around town are also, we're working through those too. And I think you guys having this conversation about housing is a big one, because we've been talking about housing here for a long time. And I think these start to align us to the paths that we need to have. So,
Yeah, we spent a lot of money on the plans. It's
Yeah.
time to execute.
right.
Any update on the shopping center timeline on cleanup? and
Yeah.
rebuild?
Britt issued permits for the stabilization plan in the recent past.
Mhm.
I forget what day it was exactly, but it was last week, right? I think.
I think it's been a little longer than
Yeah,
that. now,
maybe
but
within the last 10 days. So the first job that had to happen was the roof beam for the second story and the firewall needed to come down because you couldn't access anything in the building. It was not safe.
Yeah.
That has happened now. That's what the work that happened recently was stabilizing the site from CDPHE standpoint. What they're doing now, they have to determine how they're gonna test the inside. This is a very, I'm sorry, it's the most, I'm just speaking frankly, it is I will say it's a complicated, I will say that, that's a nice thing to say. It's a complicated process.
This is the asbestos testing?
Yeah, to finish it.
Okay.
And I think it really matters because of the insurance that they had for the building and they have to know there was asbestos in the state. There's just some difference in like methodology here that is happening. I think everybody is focused on the right thing though, which is a good thing. And so I think what we'll see is in the next few days, that methodology for testing should be fully agreed on now that the beam's down and they can actually access the site. So we're expecting that to happen next. And then once they test, that's a really pretty quick test for asbestos. And then they can come up with the demolition methodology, which is the last step. So buildings like this, they just take a little bit of time to come down. They're not easy, but I think we saw the progress happening. I can tell you, I talk to the private property owner and to the state every single day, and nobody is trying to like let it sit. So I think the key is that they just need the data points, get the thing approved, and then we're rolling. But we're monitoring it from our side because if it does slow down for, you know, you don't want to penalize somebody because they're held up by an external process that they can't control. But we are watching to make sure that it doesn't drag down unnecessarily. So
Great. Who's in Black Forest now?
there is the rental unit upstairs. There's nobody downstairs. There was an offer made to the town early in this process to rent it to us for $1 a year
Mhm.
and allow commercial space. The problem is that is another complicated situation and it depends on length of lease and the work that's required inside. And I think another one, people have good intentions, but it's just a matter of figuring out what's possible. But they're very interested in turning that into community space. And it's just a question of how that would happen.
Mhm.
But I think they're still open to those conversations. The DDA's had a little bit of talks with them too, because it could be it's within the DDA purview. So I think I don't really have a great update for you on that, but I think that
That's
there's
good
a
enough.
desire to get it moving.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
Something again. you
Yeah.
know, Other than somebody living upstairs.
Yeah, I think there's some possibilities.
There's a lot of work.
I moved somebody in and out of there and I've seen the inside of it.
Yeah.
I know bringing that up to what it needs to be. A lot.
I think this is a really great example of a really wicked problem. Like people are engaging with good intent, but there are multiple priorities that have to be balanced here. And it's been eye-opening experience about how to kind of push these things through. So, our purview right now is to issue a permit, which we did to make sure things progress. And we're doing that. And I think if we find out that we need to do something different, we're ready and willing. But
The police department report is very easy to read.
yeah,
It gives you a good summary. I really like the way they put it together.
They put a lot of detail in there.
yeah, they're trying. And I think they're open to different things too, if we want to see different things. That's another project we'll probably be working on, is continuing to work on that contract this year and
Mhm.
try to keep good outcomes coming to Netherland. But I will say, I think our sheriff's deputies that have been here, and especially Sergeant Mendez, have been a really great asset to our community. And I think, it takes a while to set things up, but their presence and visibility, I think, is stronger than, the first year there was some growing pains, but they've done a really good job of being present. And I think especially, we have quite a bit of folks that either come here or to town hall that are experiencing some kind of mental crisis. And that happens really frequently. It just happened. Yeah, really, really.
Or was it? No, it was this week.
Yeah, it was Monday.
That was
2 days
this
ago.
week.
It was-
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
But
this week.
They
remember.
understand how to respond to that and they come the right way and they
Yeah.
respond in a positive way for our community, which I think is really good. So,
And their presence is definitely felt around town.
yeah.
That's been really good.
And our co-responders funded through when?
This year.
The year.
Great,
Yeah,
okay.
and they helped us get a grant. They actually are super great. They've been working with us and I think there's probably opportunities to keep doing that.
Mhm.
That's just another funding conversation that we need to keep engaging in. And then, there's a lot of those. I think hopefully this year with the election happening in April, I would like to start the budget process earlier this year, just because we have a lot of complicated things happening.
And you're gonna do a supplemental anyway.
We will, so we'll have that in April, and then I think that that's a really good opportunity for the board, we just keep the work going. Because there are some, this year, we're gonna have to be thinking about some of these decisions, like these bigger decisions about how we act regionally and how we act, how our town works and is set up. And I think there's a lot of positive things happening in the fiscal space, but we are gonna have to start thinking about just making sure that we build discipline in our funds and,
Yeah.
you don't build a government to save money. You have to spend money. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we just got a good sustainable system. So that's something I've been thinking about. And, there's a lot of pieces of that. There's salary surveys. There's all this work looking at where we might have what do we need to do and these different community organizational needs and things like that. So I think, if we could be started that in June, it'd be great. And, I think that allows us for a more interactive and kind of progressive process, working with all the boards and commissions too, and just making sure it's aligned to the board's goals, the board of trustees. And, that's a really other big thing that we've been talking about is just aligning work and aligning, questions and then the work that the other boards do and then trainings and all of these things. So there's a million things to do here and that's great. But we just got to keep working on them one at a time and, trying to see the forest through the trees.
Good.
The other thing last thing I'll mention, the overlay districts, that you guys were working on, you recommended to the board. They heard it last Tuesday.
Hmm.
Fire had some concerns about their operational capacity to manage the building heights that were recommended.
Hmm.
So I'll have another staff report on Tuesday and it's 400 pages right now. Which is probably not readable over the weekend, but it has a lot of information about other fire districts, other communities like ours, how they handle different building heights and things like that. And just kind of like different things about operational capacity.
Right.
So I just want to let you guys know that that work is progressing and they're still kind of working their way through the question about what the building height should look like for it. But then the goal is that, and to be honest, like, I think it's fair that it takes a little bit of time. It took us a year working in planning commission to get to that recommendation. So it may take them a little bit of time too. And I think that's okay. Like we want to make sure that they have all the information they need. So that will next be heard on Tuesday though.
Okay. What are some of the communities you looked at when you're putting your 400-page report together?
Idaho Springs, Clear Creek, Clear Creek County as a whole, but Idaho Springs, Silver Plume, Georgetown specifically, looked at Creed.
These are good.
I looked at like 10. I looked at I'm sorry. There was like 10 communities, mostly mountain communities, like
Right.
similar to ours.
Mhm.
But there was several of them, and there's a lot of different things going on, like the different fire department, like staffing levels, professional staff, volunteer staff,
Mhm.
those kinds of things. But there's not, I would say, one of the findings that I found is there's not a direct correlation between department size and building height downtown. It's more about, I think it really boils down to the operational capacity. Some of those districts are like 1,000 miles and, there's some big districts out there. So it was an interesting project.
Good.
But my staff report, it'll be out on Friday. So if you guys want to take a look, and it's not all information you have to read. I put budgets in there and there's pictures and, so some of it is kind of superfluous, but it just tries to support the overall work so that they have a research base to work from. So,
Thanks. I will read it.
yeah.
Okay,
We're good?
I'll give the feedback I'll give on the budgeting thing. I think that's very smart. And I think that you need to couch it with the BOT of the reason we need to get started on this early is so that we don't throw somebody into the deep waters in the last few months of the budgeting process. That is great planning to set somebody up for success for next year. I will tell you, I went and gave, basically described the process that we went through on the overlay district to the BOT. Our fire chief was there and gave his concerns around the ability to fight the fire because of limitations and that there are some possible insurance implications for the community. And there was a lot of may happens. But I will unfortunately say that it looks like, it doesn't look very favorable for the height increase. But the good news is there was a lot more in that overlay district than just the height. And that all seems to be going through, so I'll go again and offer, any feedback and answer questions to the BOT. But we'll see what happens, but right now it's, I won't characterize, I'll just say we'll see what happens.
The board had some really valid questions at the end of the last meeting, and so I tried to answer them. You know, I think it really boils down to, I really like saying wicked problem because, you know, it is. And like, you know, you might value security, I might value freedom. It doesn't mean either one of us is wrong about, you know, I'm not saying that's how it is, but you know, there's multiple things that can be important and true at the same time. And we do need to manage our economic development and our building processes, and we do need to manage our operational capacity. And those are really the questions the board asked me to address. And so in my staff report, I tried to do that. You know, there's a lot of things that can affect the cost of a development. And I think we're smart to think about that. And I think we're also smart to think about our operational capacity, which is really what it says to do in chapter 16 anyway, at the very preamble. So I think one of the things that shows me is, you know, this community, it doesn't leave things uninterrogated, I will say. I think this is going to be thoroughly vetted by the time the board makes a decision on it. So if they direct me to have more questions or anything like that, you know, they may even direct it to come back here. And that's okay. I think in this case, this is a big decision. And I think once we get it done, no matter what, it checks a box in our comp plan and our sub area plan, and it will have been at that point, like, it was already the biggest engagement that we ever had, but it's going to be bigger than that. So, you know, I think ultimately I'm pretty proud of the way our community's handled it, because it is a complicated thing, and it's one that's very easy to mix emotion and intellect on. And I think that's where the real work is happening here. So
After that Tuesday meeting, I went down to Boulder's new fire station number 3 on 28th Street to see how they're handling 55-foot buildings. That's where they put the trucks, the engines. They're gonna have to fight those fires. And it's a kind of, I can understand why the chief was a little concerned.
Yeah.
That was an investment level. We just.
that man bleeds for this community. So
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, that was not part of
No.
our
Yeah.
thing, was to look at the fire considerations. It was only code.
Yeah.
And so,
And that was a big discussion, was the height.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was two work sessions.
Yeah.
So I feel like, you know, we're moving forward either way. This whole process we were trying to shape what future planning in our communities, you know, was gonna look like, future building, especially in the downtown area. And I think we've done that, and if things, I don't know, we'll still wait and see what happens on the next meeting.
I think it's a little, we got to see what the board wants to do, but I tried to give them a staff report that gave them the entire picture I could. So hopefully that's what happens, but
I want to read the creed section first.
yeah,
and
the
read-
creed is, I'm sorry, now you got me going. The creed one is the most interesting one.
Yeah.
Because they have the highest height allowance out of anyone, but the by far least funded fire department.
Mhm.
And I don't know if that's why, like maybe they just don't have the capacity to like be thinking about it that way, but it's a very interesting thing.
It's a quirky little town.
Yeah,
It is.
Did you happen to call the town manager?
no, I was looking at budget and just their department stuff, but that's probably a good idea. I'd probably do that
It's
before
like,
Tuesday.
yeah, I mean, just, hey, we've got a thing going on.
Yeah.
You might have some insight on
Should you
this.
be our role model or not?
Yeah.
Give us the clue. but-
I will say that if it goes forward and is passed and adopted, with everything but the height changing, we still made a lot of progress.
of
Yeah.
progress.
Yes.
You know, and shaping how that's gonna look, so,
Well done.
Yeah.
You guys did, I think what you said too about you guys were looking at land use, and that's fair and okay. Like, I think in this case, like, it's fair and okay. Like, that's what you guys are tasked to do, and that's what your work is oriented towards. And
Mhm.
fire came when they came, and I think that it's important that they did. You know, it'd been great if they were earlier, but it's okay that they weren't. And so we gotta make it all fit together.
Yep. Okay.
right, are there anything that somebody would like to bring up as a non-agenda item? Now would be your time.
I hope on BOT that you get some candidates that have a financial background, because you're gonna need it this year.
Well, there will be, there's gonna be an appointment no matter what. So
Mhm.
if you know anybody that's interested, that's gonna be coming after the election, because I think we'll have a long enough window that we probably want to make that happen. So
Right.
that is something that's in, I think everybody's head, is how does that look in the next iteration of the board?
Yeah.
Oh, and just to add on to that, so we did publicly notice the 2 positions available here. There's one on SAB. The plan is to put them on social media and the website, kind of like update that once a week.
Yep.
And then all of the boards will be seeing just kind of like that public notice and a little bit of information that they can share out to people that might be interested. So I'll be sending that out by email. So if you know of anyone, what I'm trying to do is maybe create something that's like an educational, like this is what it means to be on here. Here's current things we're doing, so that people really know what it is.
Yeah. they're
Kind-
volunteering
it's a
for it.
Very good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, so trying to get more creative with that because I haven't seen any applications, but if you know of anyone, please feel free to have them come talk to me. And I mean, they can obviously talk to you, but if they want to have a staff perspective, they're more than welcome to come talk to me.
Good.
So. Yeah. That's it on my end.
Okay,
All right. Take a motion.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Already meeting
Yeah.
in 7:46. Thank you guys for being online with us.
Oh, like that.
Oh, Thank
Yeah.
you. Sorry I couldn't be there in person.